Hey everybody, welcome to my review of Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm Danz Newz. This is Danz Newz Reviews. Let's hop into it. Spider-Man Far From Home, saw it in IMAX, got my cool IMAX poster back there, strung up on actually I think it's covering, the MCU movies are all right here. I think I have up to Spider-Man Homecoming. That had to have been the first one, or the last one that I actually bought out of that series. I need to get my Blu-ray game back up because I'm really far behind on those. Spider-Man Far From Home, the billionth entry into the MCU series. When you count the Spider-Man movies in the MCU so far, what do we have? Civil War, the two Avengers movies, and then we have these two films now. So that's kind of crazy. He's been in 5 movies already, which is more than any other Spider-Man to date. That's ridiculous. Time is weird now. Oh, I have my earbuds in. We don't need that. We don't need that at all. Not to get into spoilers or anything, I do want to kind of give my a little synopsis, my thoughts on the film, and then I will be going into spoilers later, so I'll be sure to give you a heads up when we roll around to that. Spider-Man Far From Home. This movie is, a direct sequel following up Endgame. This is supposed to be the end of the phase 3 of the MCU, leading into the phase 4. Just kind of the capper. It's kind of like the Ant-Man to the end of phase 2, where it's like you have this fun romp that it does kind of, although I guess Ant-Man kind of just pays lip service a little bit to Age of Ultron more than this one does. This one, you feel the ramifications of everything that happened between Infinity War, Endgame, and this. The basic story, we have Peter Parker going on a summer vacation with his classmates, some who had survived the snap, some who didn't. It's really, really strange the way that they deal with the snap. They actually call it the blip in this movie, but it's just Peter adjusting post-Endgame events and traveling on this summer vacation where, as you've seen in the trailer, Nick Fury hijacks their summer vacation with a gentleman known as Mysterio, who is on our side, trying to help us fight some of these different elemental beings that are popping up throughout the world and being a menace. So it's that whole jazz. They talk about the multiverse and all that stuff. So I mean, that's pretty much the basic synopsis. There isn't really too much as far as that goes. It's more so of a character movie with following our characters. What are the resonances of the Endgame for Peter, for all of his classmates? How is he dealing with things post that? The death of Tony Stark and being Spider-Man and trying to live a normal life. That old Spider-Man thing where he's just trying to figure out how to balance everything and have a normal life while also having this great responsibility with this great power that he has. Haven't you heard? With great power comes great responsibility. This movie, I was smiling ear to ear the first half an hour of this movie. I couldn't stop. You couldn't smack the smile off my face. I was just like a kid in the candy store. Endgame was such a just fan service, oh my gosh, we're seeing all this crazy stuff. Obviously, the beginning of that movie doesn't have a smile on your face, but by the end of that movie, I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. Spider-Man. This movie, just like the first one, just like Homecoming, it's a bit more leaning into the comedy stuff. It's more of an out and out comedy with some incredible action set pieces. The effects are insane in this movie, and with a character like Mysterio, you want to have really. I'd imagine if they had tried to do Mysterio to movie way back in the day, it would have been incredibly expensive and probably cost prohibitive to actually have that character on screen because just his suit alone and his powers and how it all works. You have the fishbowl helmet with the clouds on the inside and, he's doing the Doctor Strangey kind of looking green things. General thoughts before I get into spoilers. This movie, go see it if you are on the fence in any way. Believe me, go see it. It is so good. It is so, so good. There are just so many fantastic action sequences. The character stuff is just perfect. Everybody is just working as hard as they can to sell every moment in this movie. The pacing is incredible. The jokes just keep coming at you early on. They don't all land, but I was chuckling way more than most of the people in my audience were, just because there's so many really fun things they did. Particularly surrounding the Infinity War Endgame stuff and kind of seeing a world after all of those events and kind of hearing some humorous things, and also just, you know, those questions that you had at the end of Endgame where it was like, wait, some people are 5 years older and some people are like, what? They do some really, really funny stuff with that, on top of just building on top of it in this world that has been affected by that stuff. I don't think it's like, they don't really spend too much on it. They don't dwell too much on it. It's not very serious like, you know, you have when, like, during the snap in an Endgame where it gets really down and dark. They don't really focus on that side of it, but it's kind of funny to see the humorous side of some things, and hear of the different stories of what happened. But yeah, bottom line, just a fantastic ride all the way through. You know, it's not gonna super surprise you with some things, but some other things you might be pretty like, what? So yeah, go see it. I highly recommend it. And now I'm gonna move on to spoilers.
Got gifts, Parker, but we have a job to do. Are you going to step up or not?
All right, spoilers are broken now. I'm going to talk about Mysterio, his whole dealio, Mysterio's dealio. Exactly what we all thought when the first trailer came out. If anybody anywhere is familiar with Spider-Man, you know Mysterio is typically a bad guy. I don't really know the comics too much. I know more so the cartoon series and the video games. So, you know, you have these kind of like ideas of Mysterio in pop culture, and I've always been waiting for them to do him in a movie. And I think it's done really, really well here. The idea of him being, it's interesting because you have this whole storyline where it's like Tony chose you, Peter, but at the same time he's going against somebody that Tony also had a hand in creating in a way, in more ways than one, and that was really interesting to me, especially when I was kind of piecing that together in my mind while we were watching the movie. Liz and I went and saw it, and she really liked it as well. She leaned over to me and she was like, "These and the Thor movies are my favorites." And I was like, "I think it's probably because it's especially the last Thor movie. They're more out and out, like outright comedies. Especially this movie. This movie was, I laughed a lot in Homecoming, but this one had just more consistent like joke, and the pacing was insane. Like the pace, they do not linger too long in a scene. There isn't much hanging around. It's just firing at like everything at the screen constantly. There was no really like lull point where I was kind of like, where is this going? What is it? It just kept moving, and it wasn't taking, like, it was taking its time, but it wasn't rushing. It was just moving at the perfect pace. I think this movie probably could have been maybe 10 minutes longer had they, you know, left in some of the handles on some of those shots and stuff, but they're just moving. They are ready and raring to go. We are on that tour bus going through Europe and hitting all the spots just like the kids are on the field trip. Just the way it all rolls and the way we're being fed information and the way it's all playing, you can't really think too long on some of the stuff. Like, it's just being thrown at you. Characters are briefed off screen, and then we come to them already knowing the plan, just like it happens a lot of the time in these movies. But, you know, the characters are just kind of going over it again. So it's like, you know, they know what they're doing, and you're kind of along for the ride as it's rolling out. All the threads were playing very, very well for me. I really did feel bad that Peter had to keep letting MJ down when he wanted to try so hard. Like, I felt that very, very well when they were setting all that stuff up. And I was buying early on that Mysterio was from a alternate reality, and they even pulled out the 616 reference. Like, this, your universe is 616. I'm from 828 or whatever he said he was, 823 or whatever universe. And that's as far as it went with that multiverse stuff. I was kind of excited for the idea of that. I was thinking maybe he's from a multiverse where, you know, Spider-Man stopped him over and over and over again. So he came to a different multiverse, or to a different universe, to essentially stop Peter from becoming Spider-Man. That's what I was thinking he was doing, where he was like, it's okay, kid, I can take over and do this thing. You go live a normal life. And then he goes on to be the hero, and Spider-Man doesn't become Spider-Man, or doesn't stay Spider-Man, or he chooses to just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And he goes off and you know, Mysterio goes off and does whatever he was going to do. I didn't know what his plan was. I kind of bought the family stuff. Again, Jake Gyllenhaal selling that backstory. I think casting Jake Gyllenhaal in that role and having him play it so earnestly and so like, I didn't know where it was going. The second, I didn't even realize once Peter had the glasses, the whole thing. So the ultimate idea is Peter is gifted these glasses by Tony, his glasses that he wore in Civil War and onward. Turns out that Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, is actually the creator of that technology, the technology that showed Tony in Civil War when he's having that memory flashback and we see like de-aged Robert Downey Jr. That technology was developed by Jake Gyllenhaal. Tony Stark repurposed it, renamed it Barf, which is hilarious. That was a stab at Jake Gyllenhaal's character's invention. He just renamed the acronym Barf, and then fired him afterwards. Like, Jesus, Tony, you've made so many mistakes. But that was at a time when he was just like super hyper emotional and not quite seeing straight, and it bit him in the ass in the long run. So the idea is Mysterio has this entire team of people who are wronged by Tony to make these gigantic illusions. He's the one who's behind the elemental attacks. It's all just a hologram because that's what Mysterio does. He creates illusions. And the reveal, like the second he starts talking about giving the glasses, I'm like, nope, don't do it. Don't do it, Spider-Man. Please, Spider-Man, don't do it. No. I just felt like the entire time I was along for this ride, and it was doing a really great job at steering me around, and there were no like, what moments outside of maybe when right after that reveal, when he gets the glasses and he's doing his whole spiel about running down what, it's kind of like a movie-y exposition dump moment where the character's explaining his entire plan. But I felt it worked for the movie and for what they needed to do. Like, I like him congratulating everybody and saying, this is what you did, and this is what you did, and this is how we did it all. I winked on the wrong side. There we go. It was a little much, but it wasn't too much. That was probably the like weakest writing in the entire movie, or not even the writing. It was it was directed well, and it was done very well, and I liked seeing that, having the curtain pulled back, and also the tiny minute connections that these characters had. The Tony Stark built this in a cave
with a box of scraps.
I loved seeing that line come back full circle in the MCU. The fact that even popped up was hilarious to me. And that guy ended up becoming like Mysterio's side guy, the bald guy who got yelled at. The idea for that is so good. So good. All the little nods, all the little tie-ins right there. That was really good for especially what is considered to be kind of the end of the Infinity Saga. But I liked that it also wasn't just him either. It was him and a team of people who all had their own motivations, which was really cool to see, because one man couldn't do all that stuff. You would need a team of all those people. And seeing Jake Gyllenhaal in a mocap suit in a movie, like he's just walking around in a mocap suit. It's like one of the mocap suits they had laying around. Like they added extra straps into it and everything to make it look a little bit cooler and a little bit less, awkward like a mocap suit does. But it was funny seeing that. So I think this like deals well with kind of capping everything off, and but also setting more stuff up. It's kind of ridiculous how they did such a great. It's like end credits, the end. And then you get the after the credits scenes, and it's like, what the there's more. Okay, that makes more sense now. So, eventually Spider-Man finds out Mysterio is really behind everything. It doesn't take very long. MJ has her whole thing with she has the holographic thing, and finds out, they piece together that Mysterio's just been lying the entire time, and they do a lot of really great double bluffs. Like, I didn't know what was real and what wasn't at points. I just go in every single one of these scenarios thinking, okay, that person isn't who they say they are. That's not who that is. That's not Nick Fury in this scene. This isn't whatever. And it does so many double fakes. Like, that's not Nick Fury. Oh, that's also not Nick Fury. Oh, okay. And then that's Jake Gyllenhaal. No, that's not Jake Gyllenhaal. That's Jake Gyllenhaal pretending to be Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's really a hologram Jake Gyllenhaal. My brain started hurting at some point, especially towards the end, because like Jake Gyllenhaal got shot, but then he wasn't really shot, I guess. I got kind of confused by that, but then he was really shot. So, okay, so Spider-Man blocks the shot, like he tries to kill Spider-Man. It doesn't work because his Peter Tingle. Mysterio dies, which I don't think he's really dead. I think he programmed that kind of final moment so Peter would have to say execute execute them all, and I think he made it so the glasses would say he was dead, and that there weren't any more illusions, because I'm pretty sure that was maybe the final illusion. that the fact that because they never really talk about him afterwards. They're not like, we have his body or anything. Like, they didn't say we don't have his body, but I'm wondering if he's really gone. I really feel like Mysterio is going to come back. At the very least, he got his final revenge, because right after the credits are done, the main cast and all that stuff, the producers and everything that goes by, we are treated to one of the biggest fan service. Like, the audience didn't react like crazy to it, but I did, because I was like, oh my God, J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson. And I kind of lost my shit there, because I was like, this is, bruh. I just sat through an amazing film that I thought was really, really good. And then they brought back J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. I didn't think they would do that. I was almost certain they would recast, and they brought him back. And my goodness, thank you for doing that. Whoever's decision it was, you did the right decision. You made the right, like, not that I didn't want to see somebody else bring their thing to that role, but it's just like, that's it. It was like Judi Dench in between the Bond movies. Although they could say that Bond is like, a code name, and that she was the same M from like the Pierce Brosnan days. But you got to give the audience credit. We know this isn't the same Spider-Man from the Tobey Maguire days or even the Andrew Garfield days. But bringing him back was just such a stroke of genius. I hope he's in the third one a little bit more. Anyway, super scatterbrain Dan going all over the place right now. But after the credit scene, J. Jonah Jameson pops up, and they're talking about Spider-Man being a bad guy. Mysterio ended up making it so Peter Parker he reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but also he makes it seem like Spider-Man was behind the attack in London that he was actually behind, and made it seem like Spider-Man was using these drones to try to do something or whatever. That sets up an interesting status quo for the next movie. It really kind of leaves a big question mark, like, what is going to happen in the future? Because, ooh boy, wow. Because I was thinking maybe Peter was going to come out like to the entire world that he was Spider-Man. That's what I figured might happen by the end of this. Maybe he would decide to put himself out there. I don't know why he would, but I thought maybe going in that might happen. It didn't, but in a way it was done for him. So we'll see how that all goes. Plus the after credits sequence reveals that it wasn't even Nick Fury the entire time. It wasn't Nick Fury. It wasn't Colby Smulders. Colby Smulders, the actress playing Maria Hill. It wasn't Nick Fury. It wasn't Maria Hill. And it was actually the Skrulls from Captain Marvel. It was Ben Mendelsohn's character from Captain Marvel and a lady Skrull. It was revealed that they were both Skrulls, and they were really in place of Nick Fury, who's having like a space vacation on some sort of space station, which is really neat, because that means Nick Fury is probably going to be in the next Captain Marvel movie, which I'm totally down for. More Samuel L. Jackson in everything, please, because he was so good in this movie. The Mysterio, like, trippy, super fake out scene where you're seeing like all this stuff. Peter's like teleported into this like black world where lockers start popping up and like all of his fears. It gets really super Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, really trippy and weird. And it's almost like that Doctor Strange trip out sequence, except for this is like, well, I guess I was about to say that's kind of horrific anyway, but this gets dark. It's like Peter facing all of his fears, him losing MJ, Tony Stark rising from the grave, which was incredible to see on the screen. They went for it. One of the things about doing Mysterio in a movie is you have to do that like super trippy, weird, hallucinogenic illusion thing that he does, where you just send your hero down this path. It kind of reminded me, it was like Freddy Krueger-y and all that stuff. I like how they played with scale during some of that imagery. Like they made Peter super tiny in this like snow globe of New York that pops up, and then Mysterio's like crashing through it, and it's like they get that macro photography kind of style with like they do with Ant-Man, where you can tell it's tiny, and it's the attention to detail and the effects and the action set pieces and sequences and stuff. They get it so perfectly done. It's really insane to see the seams nowadays. It's really crazy the level of special effects that are going on in these movies and are done so well. Because I felt like Homecoming had some kind of weak CGI at points. This movie CGI was fantastic all the way through. There weren't really any wonky shots that I remember seeing in the movie. So bravo to you all. And I saw it in IMAX. So I saw it on a big, loud screen. That was just really, it was a treat. Overall, again, like I said, recommend it highly. I had a fantastic time in the theater. It was just one of the best experiences that I've had probably since Endgame. It was just such a fun payoff for everything that came around. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, it's just really cool to see these threads continued on within the MCU and playing into all these other story threads that are going on. And the idea of Spider-Man having to live up to Tony's shadow, like build up to Tony's level, like can he replace Iron Man and all that stuff. And it's so good. It's so good. I think that Marvel, you are doing Spider-Man perfect. And this is Sony as well, I should say. I'm very curious to see what happens after the next Spider-Man movie, because I think at that point they don't have the deal between Marvel and Sony is going to be up, I guess. So will we see more Tom Holland Spider-Man in the future? Hopefully so. Is Marvel just going to go, or Sony just going to go off and make their own Spider-Man movies? I really hope that this marriage stays going, because if it doesn't, I would be really sad if they make that next Spider-Man movie kind of the end of this. I would love to see it continue on. And one of the things I was thinking about while watching this movie is like, man, Tom Holland still looks really young. Tom Holland can play this character for so long. He can just keep going. He's in his 20s. Like, just keep making him. Like, do it until he's 40. Roughly the age Tobey Maguire was in the first Spider-Man. But yeah, I think I've talked ad nauseum. What was your favorite part of the movie? Did y'all like it? Let me know what you all thought of the movie in the comments. I just had so much fun seeing this movie, and I couldn't wait to get back to record my review for it. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you all next time, everybody. Bye.